Looks like I'm on Facebook. Howard, I have no audio. It's 10 after 4. I can see a video of the room, but I cannot hear what's being said. So that's going to have to change. I don't know how to text you when I'm using my phone for this type of a meeting. Sorry. So all I can do is voicemail you. If they want me to speak, I'm going to have to get some sort of better connection with this meeting because I can see it, but I cannot hear it.
about this. We were at the site, we talked about some options, but there's no clear path of what would happen there.
Okay. We already have the materials for the kiosk. Okay. So it's just being built. And but the dimensions have to be changed. So that means we'd have to add another board onto the, if you take a look at this page here. It gives the
Oh,
dimensions.
you got my, you printed it out. Okay. So are we ready to go now? Okay, so I just have, if we can go to the next slide, which is, this is an example of some of the signs that I've done for other locations. This is on the Crown Sea Trail. So these have a consistent border that we use on a lot of these historic signs. So the focus of this particular one is a picture with some information. These are 20 by 30 inches. And they're printed on metal, stainless steel. And the next slide is just another example of one with a little more text and pictures. And then the next example is again the same sort of thing, sort of a collage of information. Because of the space on these signs, these would be too big to put 4 on one. But it's sort of a general idea of what the individual signs could reflect as a story. And the next slide, please.
Yes, so the information that you're looking to put on the sign.
So these are examples.
These are examples. This particular one is in Vernonia at on a kiosk there that has pictures about history in Vernonia. This particular one is about the movie Ring of Fire. These actually do get quite a bit of attention from visitors. So sometimes just depends on the story you're trying to tell, whether you want it to be a visual hook or you want people to come and read a lot. My take on it is depending on the material, you want to have more information basically through a QR code, and I'll talk about that. Good, next slide. So now I've got a few concepts, there's some ideas. So the next slide. This particular one, so the Dalton Lake history would be a header type autoplate that would go across the top with 4 smaller ones below. This is like one of the stories that maybe we want to tell there. So this is an aerial taken of the area. The star is basically, I think, about where this kiosk would be located. You could tell stories here about the sawmill, shipbuilding. Next slide, please. This is more about the history of Mr. and Mrs. Dalton and their estate. They have that wonderful engraving of their home and their estate. And Lena Dalton has a fuchsia named after her. You can still buy it at Fred Meyer's. It's called the Lena. Next slide. You could also talk about Native American history and the Caples history. If you wanted to go into that. And the next slide. Again, as I mentioned, in shipbuilding, and then the quarry operation, which you can still see remnants of in various places when you walk around
I
there.
think that would be really great to share that information is such an important feature of the area.
Thumbnails are cool.
So it's just, you know, a matter of what you choose to focus on. Do you want to have it all? Do you want to just have part? Because there's a limited territory here. Next slide.
I think the idea of like QR codes that would let people expand on each area is really good thought.
And then there is the option too about people wonder, why is this lake here? What happened? Who owns it? You could go into that. That's less important to us necessarily, but I wanted to put it out there as an opportunity to tell that story as well, if you thought it was important. Next slide. So here are some of the questions that I have, and I'm not asking for answers necessarily today, just the questions that are going to need to be answered if I'm going to work on this project and have it be successful. You know, it's the dimensions there. So we were talking about the size. So that's an existing sign. Appears to me like it's 4 by 8 sheet of plywood. It's been cut down to go in there. There could be room to make it a little lower. So it could be 60 by 60, for example. Depending on what surface you have, again, it could be 2 or 3 and 4 possibly individual signs smaller. Or it could cover that whole space. But first of all, who's going to decide what goes up there besides me? I'm glad to curate something, but that's a review process that I need to understand how that would work.
Yeah.
Also, I need to understand what the font standards are, layout standards, so that I presume the parks have sort of a consistent look, feel. And if they don't, maybe they should. But again, that's another issue. Who's going to print it? How that's going to be, the size, as I mentioned before, and then the materials that it's going to go on. What kind of materials? And there's a cost factor here that has to be considered. I can, do a layout for about anything if I know that. Some are more difficult than others. Sometimes it's harder to tell a certain story in a certain amount of space because the picture, if it's too small, it doesn't work, if you follow me. But what I'd like help with is understanding how and when those could get addressed so that we could kind of get an idea of when this project might be able to evolve into something people can look at.
What is the funding available for this project? Do you guys have anything available?
No. That's the biggest problem, because, what he is presenting is very classy. I love it. I love the brown.
Oh, the original
On the
ones.
middle, yeah. And I think the size is fine, and a piece of plywood would be a huge expense. And but you brought something up that I think is now a good time to let the city know too. Is that when we get signs, I was just happy to get whatever I could get, for the kiosks at that time, because we didn't have any money. Everything was donated for no. And so it would be nice to have a standard. It would be nice to have when you look at this picture, have the same colors, at the parks. It would be nice to just standardize that a lot more.
There is a state code that is kind of what Sherry follows when she orders these signs. Certain things representing certain items are different colors. Blue is meant for one thing, brown is meant for other
Okay.
things. Green is for others. It's supposed to be hit your eye and you know what it is, kind of like a handicap is blue.
So if they already have the signs at the Crown Z trail that are of a certain template.
The informational signs, I don't think there's anything to them. I think
Interpretive signs, I don't think have any restrictions on color.
it's not gonna be like a entering Dalton Lake Nature Preserve sign, what he's creating. Those are
Right.
pretty fancy there. Those are nice. But yeah, that's why I think some of your sign, I'm sure some of it is just hodgepodge, someone ordered a sign, but there is kind of a method to some of the madness on the designing of them. As far as the font goes and all of those things on these informational signs. That's gonna take someone with a little artsy in their head. I don't know, without seeing an example or something like that, to where you can see what it looks like, because some fonts to me get too fancy where I can't hardly read them.
The question more is there a standard that you use? And if there isn't,
There is.
something that works.
I'd
A
like
lot
to
of
see,
places have a standard.
yeah, it sounds like we don't have one currently in place for the area. However, I don't know that we have other, do we have other historical kiosks or signage throughout?
Not that I know of.
There is some.
Other than the metal. Yeah.
And there's also some on Sand Island.
Okay.
Sand Island. What's the one right here, where the beer garden is going down by the gazebo?
That's similar to White Great Cliffs.
So
It's wrong, that's what it is.
Mistake.
so, having a consistent look throughout the city would be great. So if they could be similar to other historical signs that we already have in place, I think that would be a great place to start as far as layout, text.
Right.
That would be fantastic. I think this is an incredible idea. Yeah, it would be really great to install. I'd like to know a little bit more exactly where you are intending to place them, and then, of course,
Just one.
finance.
Lynn had.
On average, how much does the sign cost?
Well, I was gonna talk a little bit, so the stainless that are done at Pacific Stainless that printed on metal. The 20 by 30s, I believe the last day, and I imagine it's gone up, it's about $170 per sign, which isn't terrible. I don't know what the cost is for what the city does now with their, and I guess, is that printed on metal also, I guess, but I don't know. I wasn't able to find out what the requirements or situation is for that. I think there's another slide, but we can see her have this discussion, but the Lennon mentioned something about plexiglass over it. I'm not a big fan of that, just because of dirt, right?
agree.
What it might save from getting stolen though.
Yeah. So one thing we have used, but not on this scale, is coroplast. And so that's the sign that they use on real estate material they use on real estate signs. It's fairly inexpensive. I just did a 4x8 for the county through Bemis, and it was $168.
So Les, what is chloroplast? I'm not
Plast.
sure I've seen it, but I don't know.
So
what it is.
you see a real estate sign or a campaign sign, and you can poke the through that, yeah, it's that material. And so.
See enough of those right now.
Yeah. And of course, you see those little lines, so it's not perfect, but they're inexpensive and they can be replaced pretty easily if they were vandalized. So
The goal is not to have it vandalized or stolen. It wouldn't be nice.
that's reality,
It'd be nice though just to be able to go look at it anytime you want, it's there.
right? So that's kind of up to you, but my recommendation would be maybe give it a try if you don't have enough money, just spend $500 or $600 twice on both sides or whatever. And just see, whether it works or not. I'm happy to try it. I've not done it for this type of thing before.
So can, say if I wanted to organize a, like a bike ride or something, to get money. But yeah, I'm trying to be, kind of beat around the bush there. But, can we do that? Can we have a fundraiser so that those funds will be going to?
Don't know the logistics on that, to be honest.
I don't know the answer either, but when I was in the Arts and Cultural Commission, we raised, I don't know, $150,000 or so. It took a couple years. Maybe it was only 80,000. I thought it was 75,000 one year and 75 the next, but
I'll get some ideas from you.
they were able to do it. It was quite a bit of work.
But we had a big fundraiser for Lights of McCormick. There's money for that.
Does the parks have a signage budget?
You have empty pockets.
I think as far as like maintenance is one thing, but as far as new installation, I think that would be a different concept. And so I would encourage finding options either through our new grants subcommittee or through, if Lynn is interested in doing fundraising options.
So we have for the council, we all gotten funding from the state resident
Mhm.
board, I believe. And maybe that's a possibility here too.
Now, so have you had any thievery on those metal signs at all?
On the CZ trail?
So we've had, no one has removed them. They're put in with anti-back out screws. And they're on cedar boards, 2x6 cedar boards. So the concept for those is if somebody vandalizes, you just replace the boards. So you don't have to, so they're in a steel frame. What has happened is scratching, and so they're printed, so they do a base coat that's baked on, then they print on that, then they put a clear coat over that, so they're quite durable. I mean, they've been up now, 3 years or more in some cases, and they still look really good. But if people want to scratch the eyes out, they can. We were able, though, someone used spray paint And we were able to get that off successfully without damaging.
Well, I've seen the signs up at the museum that they've done, and it looks wonderful. And it would be
They are
nice to
nice.
have that historical kiosk done by the museum or something like that.
I would also like to see a little bit of information. You were mentioning how you weren't quite sure what exactly to include on it.
Yeah,
and
that's why
so-
I gave those examples.
Yeah, so I would love to see if you do have specific, well, you showed those specific information. Is that the total of your examples that you would like to use for the Dalton Lake area?
Broadly, I think covers it. I mean, I certainly could focus on other things, but again, it's what have you kind of image do you have that people will relate to? And you know better than I what people probably are wondering about when they're down there, but sometimes a sense of place and its relationship, people are drawn to that. And so if we go to the next slide, I can't remember what it is, but you guys know this better than I do. So we've already talked about that, so go to the next one. So typically, what I'm, on the Crown Sea Trail, it's impractical because there's no cell phone service, but on the sections that we're doing there, and we're doing an installation in Rainier and one in Plattskanai, we've already done one in Vernonia, is to include a QR code in there so that people can get more information. So if you go to that one, that's a live QR code to our website, which has everything that we have pretty much on Dalton Lake, the history of the Daltons and all of that. So that could be refined a little bit, but still that gives you the opportunity maybe to tell more of a story that might be tailored or some way to do that. And then let the kiosk kind of stand alone as a presentation on it, you know, a representation of more information that you could find elsewhere.
We've discussed a number of historical items that we could put on there that's relevant to where it's gonna be focused.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I had to say about this, but I don't wanna I'm not trying to hold anyone hostage here, but I really need to understand before I invest a lot more time in the project, because the layout is sort of critical to figuring out what I can put in there and how I can arrange it.
Well, I don't think there's gonna be any trouble in the dimensions, changing the dimensions on there.
Like a 60 by
Yes,
60.
right. So we know that already. You know, we can do that. And
And are you putting this together as a volunteer?
On behalf of the museum, yes,
Fantastic. And so prior to moving forward on this kind of a project, we would need to make sure that we have the funds to actually put the kiosk together and implement it fully.
Well, even if you don't have the funds now, if you have a defined concept of materials and size, I can work on it in the meantime and then have it prepared whenever you get the funds that you need.
Okay,
There may be benefactors out there. I mean, that you're not talking about a lot of money.
right.
And he's done this a number of times before, and I trust what his ideas are for the area, you know, that we're talking about. And I think it's gonna be a beautiful kiosk when it gets done. You know, so I just, I'm really, so we can talk further about some ideas I have for getting funding. And I'm gonna talk to Jerry, see.
Would it be okay to ask that the final draft be run back through the parks?
Oh, yeah, I think I listed on there as what would be the review process. Yeah, and so if that's your group or if it's the city, I
think you bring it to us,
Mhm.
we recommend it to the council,
Mhm.
and they reply back to us, and then we reply back to you.
well, you can go through all that nonsense. As long as I have an idea of, you know, what you think it should be,
Yeah,
the city council rejects it, then, you know.
yeah,
Just like
Ask the council
right, yeah, just,
Site. For the location of it, because if they say no to that, it kind of throws everything out.
right. So knowing where the site would be, we'd probably have to get that approved.
I have
Hi.
a GPS coordinates for it.
And most of you know and have been down there where the site is. Have you been down there where the new bridge is? It's just before the new bridge on the left-hand side. And so it's actually pretty close to where the sawmill was and all the industries.
See the river.
So, yeah,
Pretty
you see
easy.
the river.
I think most things like that generally come just to this group. It seems like benches and all that kind of stuff, usually. Bench placement's been talked about here and
Yeah.
sign placement, so I don't know that it would need to go higher.
As long as it doesn't involve like, you know, further with public works or anything involving like, legal signage issues, right? And
Definitely find out, but my one thing is, I know for years we've been talking, it would be nice to have something like this in all of the parks.
yeah,
And if that is gonna be the case, if these are kind of eventually gonna be around the city,
yeah,
the city does have a font package and
Yeah.
color scheme. And I know Les isn't a fan of the color scheme, but I think Jenny Dimshow would probably be the one to ask about that, about what maybe the design elements,
okay.
colors and fonts should be.
I'd love to have a
Follow
picture of
that.
the garden. It's on the front, but historic sign if it's there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I put this on pause till I hear from you. This is kind of stuff I just threw together. It wasn't really a final concept at all, just some general ideas. So just two sides, you know, maybe 3 or 4 signs on each side. So I think it's best to try and tell not too many stories at one time. So clearly all of those things I presented can be done. But you know, I'm partial to telling a little bit about the Dalton.
I think that is a fantastic idea.
Yes.
Yeah, that would, you know, I appreciate that very much, especially in the area.
Photographs. With the body of, whatever is written on it.
Primarily photographs would be my, you know, like you saw the one with Lena with her fuchsia.
Yeah,
Something like that, yeah. And because a lot of the old pictures are black and white, but if it can introduce color, that's nice too.
I thought they looked awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, so plaque approval.
What do you mean? So I'm basically seeking approval to place another plaque at Great Cliffs Park. There's 4 benches at the turnaround there, and most of the benches have plaques on them in memorial of certain people. And this was brought to my attention by someone I know, and they would like to add another plaque. These are on the ground, and they're 3 inches by 8 inches. And basically, if you want to look at that, it shows what the site is. Basically, it'd look exactly like that, same size, just glued to the ground right there, and it would say in loving memory of Rod Granger, which was Granger's son who just passed away. So they would like to put that there, and it's in a weird way a relative of mine, and I would like to see him be able to do that. So I thought I would bring that to you guys to make sure you're good with it.
Does anyone have any discussion on this?
It's gonna be epoxy to the concrete. It won't be on the bench itself.
I'd just be concerned if it's gonna be turned into kind of a memorial site for more people.
Interesting thought.
Not very many of them left, so.
I'm talking about
I would
you.
hope, you don't want a longer.
I'm not talking just your family, other people might want to.
Right. And most of them have only 1 or 2, to be honest with you. I don't think I saw any that had 3 people's name, but that's something for you guys to kick.
And is this already kind of, are there other memorial signs in the area too?
They're on the benches. The only ones that are on the ground, these are on the backboard of the benches. The other ones are. I don't know why maybe the bench wasn't built for it. I don't know. It's just.
There are ones on the ground, you say?
These 2 that I'm showing you are currently on the concrete on the ground in front of the.
Okay, because I remember.
Yeah, all the other ones are.
Yeah, see, I remember that.
I know we've done it for other people in the past, you know, that have St. Helens ties or been here their whole life.
Yeah.
And we have a ball field at 6th Street named after a guy that used to umpire there, and so I don't see a problem with it.
I don't either. Yeah. Somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I would wonder if, like I said, if there are other people who want to do it, if, do something that. Make it available for other individuals in the city to be able to.
Yeah, I don't think it's not available
Yeah.
to them. I don't know if you want to put a limit on, like say, whether you keep stacking them on there or what, and it looks like bricks pretty soon, but.
Yeah.
I think we can monitor that,
That's what we do.
maybe suggest different sites or.
Just wondering, I mean, it just. Makes me worry about, allowing somebody to do it and then. If somebody else wants to do it and having a reason not to let them. So I think that with the benches there, I think it was a donation of the bench. To put a plaque on the bench. So I'm just wondering if we're, what might transpire down the road.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, but I also don't necessarily feel at this time, especially with the volume of requests, this is the first one that I've heard since I've been on the commission that. I don't find issue with it at this time. I do think it would be appropriate to discuss if we see to have a large influx of requests, so that is appropriate.
We just did one like last year,
Yeah,
where you go on the commission.
yeah.
But was it,
We did for the Allens.
was there a bench though? I mean,
There was a bench there, I think they put the name on the bench like that too, it was for the Allens.
It's not that I have an issue that putting that on, I just want, if we make a memorial to, have it. Everybody have an opportunity if they want to put something like that on there.
Yeah, it sounds like that is possible. If they wanted to, they would just bring it to our request as well. And then we can discuss it. And again, at this time, I don't see a reason why we would decline that. If we had a large influx or if it was a location that it wasn't as appropriate, this looks really great. And we can discuss it then. But I do hear you that it could be a concern if we're approving some and declining others. And I think it's appropriate to discuss
I'm
that.
just saying that, it'd be nice if we do that, to make it, known to people that they can do this if they want to. And there's the opportunity.
So are you requesting to like advertise that that is a possibility?
I don't know, I haven't really, this is the first time that we really discussed it, and it's just something that, it just seems, I want to make it available to all,
Yes,
that's all.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's not as a favor to me because I'm.
Right.
It's just a citizen.
Yes.
Sure, but
Yeah.
I'm just city, sorry.
you're the Marks guy.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we do that, we put the. Memorial thing stamp on it.
Oh, and one more question, who's installing it? I would like to know who installs it.
Will be parts.
Okay, great.
I second it.
All in favor of allowing installation of the memorial sign at Great Lake Park? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much, motion moves.
I think it's good though that we need to remember the people that, I'm not originally from St. Helens.
Yeah,
So we remember the people that aren't originally from here and then do a lot for the community.
Yeah.
who are there.
great. All right, thank you so much. Okay, Columbia Boulevard Overlook.
That's me.
Peterson.
I just wanted to flag it up again because we had it under threat last year. And I was thinking that maybe we could form a subcommittee on it and possibly get a design going. And it's nothing that needs, pressing right now. It's just, I want to keep the ball kind of rolling on it and keep it, still in our radar.
Yeah, and that's the area that's kind of above. Now that, does it go down to Gray Cliffs? And are we talking about that?
No, it's Columbia Boulevard that ends,
Right over here, right?
where there's a crosswalk, it goes.
That's not a park.
It is designed in the master, design for a overlook.
Here we talk about.
city record.
Yeah, where Keith Locke was trying to make.
Yeah, that, that was great.
Yeah.
That was part of that.
Yeah, and there is, you're right, there's dialogue in the master plan about making alterations to that, so you would like to,
Well, it was just make a, thinking about doing a subcommittee on it to try to eventually do a design, just kind of keep it going to give it some added protection.
Did the Main Street people have any type of designs in that area? Didn't they do a big huge plan on all of the Main Street coming in?
Oh, that I don't.
Probably did, but I don't know what they have on it.
Yeah, I guess that'd be another question we need to ask.
I think when we did the discuss with the vacation was that there was this overlook that was part of the master plan, so I don't think it's probably not gonna be an issue with that.
Okay. In regards to the forming of the subcommittees, that is something that we have to get approved through city council, right? Brandon,
Sure.
like, because we did that with the grant subcommittee, right?
I think that's because that involved money and
Money acquisition.
didn't want to compete with the city for grants, so I think that's the main purpose, but.
Okay, so when forming subcommittees,
Just go
we
ahead.
can just do it. Okay, great.
So I'm clear, it was mentioned in the master plan as a future park space?
Well, there's descriptions of altering that included trail.
Oh, a trail.
There's a trail there already, and there's an,
So not it's part of space, he was asking us to give it to him.
yes,
Yeah.
the overlook, it's a public space. In the master plan from, I think, 1975. Originally. I don't quote me on that, but
Yeah, he wanted us to just give it to him.
yeah.
All right, so, okay, so you'd like to form a,
Well, if we could, kick it next week, next meeting, it's nothing
Yeah.
pressing, it's just, I'd like to keep it moving just as, protection against, anybody who wants to try to take it.
I think it's great.
I'm not gonna let anyone take it as long as we're here. Believe me, we're 100%.
You're right behind the whole way.
Would you like
Oh,
any,
you're pretty adamant.
It was pretty adamant, yeah.
would you like any further action at this time or just?
No, just we can.
Great.
For thought.
Perfect. Okay, do you mind if we move on to the proposed campsite?
Yeah, propose. As you all know, at HB 3115. Steve Tosky is spearheaded doing it's titled a code for the city for it. And in that, he's identified 2 sites for possibly designating for campsites.
Right.
So one is by the rec center. So would be under our purview because it's part of the grounds of the rec center, because we're supposed to be keeping an eye on the ground scale on public buildings. Plus, we've all went out there last year and checked it out for a trail alongside that, because it's quite a unique way for St. Helens, with the trail through the woods there.
Yeah.
It's nothing like we have in any of our parks, really,
Right.
maybe McCormick.
And we were trying to make it a reserve,
Yeah.
was the intention.
Right,
That whole area.
and so they're looking to use that back area and put in the campsites. Now, did everybody get a chance to read the?
Sorry about the delay they're giving you to your
Oh, that's okay. Did you guys get a chance by
email
the
that
draft, for the proposed campsite? Now, it clearly states, where the locations will be, what the restrictions will be as far as camping, including, length of stay, rules regarding cleanliness, disposal of waste. And, so if you haven't had a chance to read that, I do highly recommend checking it out.
Where did it come through or?
Tim, I sent it this morning.
Yeah.
You
Send it to me.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got
You can read-
it.
Email us morning.
Bill is,
I never saw it.
so are they gonna bring it up again, or are they just doing this to?
I don't know if it's dead, it's just that they're put it in their back pocket and will probably enact it if they think it is a wise course to go on.
Would
That's.
you like me to read through this real quick?
I heard that they were gonna bring that up again, but it's dead now.
Yeah, I never saw it. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, I'd like.
Just add caution too, so just keep in mind that that was a recommendation from the planning commission, and
Yes.
now that's as far as that's gone, so
Okay,
it
right.
hasn't been approved by the city council. That was the recommendation of the planning commission, so that was the draft that they came up with. And those were the sites that they recommended.
And are we allowed to put input for that
Yeah, I know, I think it's on their agenda for the planning commission meeting tomorrow.
Great.
City council's been discussing it too, so.
So is it appropriate for us to read through this real quick and then discuss if we have any suggestions we'd like to bring back to planning?
Yeah, you're welcome to do that.
Okay, great. So I'd like to go ahead and read through this real quick, just so that everyone can have a chance to hear what it has to say and that we can offer suggestions if we'd like to make any edits or suggestions to the planning commission.
It could be a pretty deep dive if we go into some of this. I mean, that could be,
I just think that the timing is, I'll read it quickly.
I was wondering if maybe we just couldn't take this back, read it, and if we have any questions from planning, give them a call.
But that would be, their meeting is tomorrow, right? Yeah,
Are they making a final decision on that?
I'm not sure what they've already passed their recommendation onto the city council, so I'm not sure what they're discussing tomorrow.
Okay, because I talked to planning already and got maps so that we could make a reserve there. So that would be just out the window. Do I need to go?
The site proposed now is directly behind the rec center, so it doesn't go that far.
And then go back in the trees.
The park area that we're talking about,
okay.
that's one site.
Literally where the gravel is,
Yeah,
pretty much, yeah.
and part of the reasoning there is that the future police station would be right across the street. It would be
Yeah.
easy to be monitored. But again, that was their recommendation. That's as far as that's gone.
So my only concern, what Lynn and I were just kind of talking here a little bit, is that, you know, a lot of us, we went down there and went, you know, along Milton Creek there. And, you know, Lynn's the one that brought us down there. Yeah, we'd really like to see that as a, you know, eventually be a park, you know, with a trail. In fact, we'd like both.
connecting McCormick.
Yeah, we'd like to see, you know, we'd like to get property on both sides. I think the port has property on the other side, you know, so we could do something. We even talked about maybe putting a bridge across the creek here.
And it was interesting because I did talk to John Walsh about this and talked about that strip of trees that are on the other side that we could protect, because they're willing to donate that at one time 2 or 3 years ago so that we could do this. So I'm pretty perplexed about that.
So the site, you said that they're only choosing one of the sites on the information I received
There
here.
are two sides.
Marked.
They have
Two sides.
two sites designated from the planning commission. One of them is directly behind the rec center. The other is across Castor Road, so across the street.
And so they'll be utilizing both places.
That was their recommendation.
Yeah, I would have looked into how many people were.
There's 8 at one and 7 the other. And
And a 5-day limit with a 60-day vacate from the city of St. Helens following their 5 days.
and the terminology said it's not an encampment, but it's, if you have 5 days there and somebody can come by the next 5 days. It can be a continuous campsite year round that people go continually going and coming and going, so.
And there is language about the established campsite in here and dialogue on what to do.
Yeah, but there's also, there, with, the legal. The judge's opinion said that, you know, they didn't say anything about having a designated site. So, I mean, you could still have places that are. Designated not camp, and then the other areas not designated, but. It is possible to camp there,
Well,
and that's what seems to be happening right now
Yeah.
with the folks that are.
this doesn't seem to be making sense because they do want a walkway all the way from the development down there coming up, going along Milton Creek there and going to McCormick Park. So if you've got a lot of people going through there and also people wanting to visit or take the trail the other way, where are they gonna go? I mean, we've got a parking spot there right now.
You're talking
So
about,
I'm talking about going, the trail that's gonna be coming through the industrial area. And it goes along Milton Creek and then it's planned to go and connect to McCormick.
yes,
So you're gonna have that go right in the middle of the homeless camp.
not me. Not me, no. I'm just
I
playing.
didn't make
I mean, it's not gonna be, it's not gonna be an
Actually, yeah.
permanent thing, I mean, we can always move it, that.
Yeah, that's,
Trail problem, I mean, how long before you think we'd ever have a trail there,
Right.
you know?
that'd be another thing about, was talking to Brandon, having, if there's some code enacted, you never know what is gonna be the consequences of that code.
Right.
Have some type of flexibility with and the sunset it, and then if it's works, then enact it permanently or you know, another period of time.
Cause we gotta get them somewhere, otherwise they can camp anywhere,
Correct.
wherever they want.
And
Well,
the,
not necessarily, they would, you can say they can camp, and then if there's public land that is available. They can, which they are doing right now, I mean, there are some homeless folks around, and they find these spots. So, I mean, it's kind of like. Leave it as it is, but. Saying that. Not saying that, withholding, it's. Some people want a designated spot, some people don't.
right, at least this, from what I read, and this is what I gather from this, is that it at least establishes guidelines. Specific rules that are required to be followed, and then, you know, violation of those can lead to certain penalties.
Yeah.
And so it allows a bit of structure for an existing problem, and it allows us to work with, you know, this new, the new legislation.
Yeah, but and it's also with the, 5 days, it seems kind of arbitrary. You could argue needs longer or even shorter, because if. A one night, rule, because they obviously have moved there. In 1 day, so they've set the precedent of, being able to move in a day, so that's, it's objectively reasonable and it's humane because they've done it themselves. No.
So is there, bringing this forward to us, do you have any proposed plan of action? Would you like the commission to bring anything forward to the planning commission?
Well, I was just hoping that just to flag it up to, say that we would eventually want that area to be part of a trail.
Right.
And, just kind of, flag it up for that.
Yeah, and is the planning commission aware that that would be our eventual goal? Do we know?
No, I did say, brought it up to the Steve who spearheaded this.
Yeah.
His reaction wasn't all the best, but at the time, but he's thought about it a little bit, I think, and
Yeah.
he understands that it has to go through this kind of process.
Yeah. Big thing. Is there any other dialogue, comments, questions on this topic? Or would anyone like to move anything forward to recommend to the planning commission regarding this, considering that their meeting is tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well, we could say that would be
And there-
further discussion about the area center. I think it needs to be more deliberation on it. So it doesn't move forward.
I know that this is just behind the rec center. But if there's anything I would like for the planning commission to know is that we'd like for it to go no farther than that, because we would like to use that area. What did you call it, Lynn? What's
A
your?
reserve.
A reserve. That, we'd like to develop that as a reserve.
And it's minimal upkeep,
Slash
if
park,
we're to
right.
keep a trail open.
And we're not talking right away. I mean, we're like, I think, we think that St. Helens has been here about 150 years. Hopefully, the city will be here another 150 years or so.
It's
So
actually listed on the coaster.
what is it?
1834.
1850.
Oh, is it?
About.
Used to be the code to the door. I thought that.
Oh, so we made it 173 years then, okay. All right.
Mike.
I guess I'll look at this code.
There with kids, and I'd hate to see it.
We had a subcommittee,
For the kids, because
but I wanted
it's hard to find
to get back to everybody.
fields for the kids to play right now. And those are young,
What's
most of it, I think, is young.
Did not have much.
There and that would
That would be.
be kind of shady if it was. They don't have anything.
I'll be quick, I'll be quick.
That and the pure amount of trash that my crew would be picking up. You would not believe the amounts
Yeah.
of garbage in our parks. You can use it as their household garbage cans and It's extremely expensive. It's one of our biggest costs.
So I would like to ask for a pause on the conversation for the proposed campsite. And I would like to bring forward to the commission. I forgot to add it onto our agenda, but we did have an interview. The interview subcommittee had an interview this last month for a possible new commissioner. And I would like to bring our discussion forward to you guys and get an approval as a whole for the new commissioner. And so I wish I had, I don't know that I have his application. Are you able to bring his application up? No. So Howard and Lynn and I interviewed the candidate. I wish, I don't even have his name in my front of me, and I'm so sorry I forgot. You have his application on you by chance? Look at you. But I'd like to share our thoughts. Howard, do you want to start sharing any of your opinions on the interview?
No, I mean, he's involved in parks in what, Tualatin?
In Hillsborough.
In Hillsborough. And he's done a lot just with parks. So to me, it almost sounded like a really good person to add to our committee. You know, he said he would be available with his busy schedule, but if he knows ahead of time what time the meetings are, he'd be able to have some ideas. And I think it'd be good with the other ideas of, you know, from others, another city and city parks. I think that would give us some really valuable input on the way that we're trying to manage our parks, or, you know, nothing against park. You know, but it just gives us another
resume, and you look well.
Yeah, he has a lot of experience working for maintenance for the Hillsborough Parks, and granted, his perspective is a little bit different since they have a much larger area to oversee and a large crew to manage in comparison to ours.
Larger budget.
And a much larger budget, absolutely. But I like Howard, I thought it would be fantastic to have his perspective on the commission. Not just because he has experience in maintenance, which I think would be great to add into some of our conversations where we talk about things that specifically involve maintenance and of our parks, but also for him to gain overall experience as a person too. This is something he's looking to branch out to grow personally and professionally, to see things from a different point of view. I thought that was fantastic concept. So he has a lot of experience and passion for the parks, and he wants to devote locally, and that really rang loud for me. And so Lynn, did you have any comments?
I hope I'm wrong, but I voted against because this person was not, I felt he didn't prepare for the interview at all. He's had 3 months or 2 months. And didn't even know that we were being assigned parks when you get on the commission. He's never done anything like that. He's been on the maintenance side, but he really hadn't been to any of our parks except for a few times here and there. And because he lives here, but he works in Hillsborough.
He did mention
So
that
there
there
is-
is parks, especially nearby his home.
Yeah, yeah, when he runs, yeah. So there's 40,000 people, or not 40,000, it's 14,000 people in St. Helens, and there's 100,000 people in Hillsborough. So it's pretty different from, you know, perspectives, and but that's my opinion, and I was outvoted, so that's the way it goes.
So as the interview subcommittee, the vote is 2-1, yay, Howard and I voting in approval for Brian Long to join the commission, and Lynn against. And so I wanted to bring it forth to the commission as a whole. And for this discussion, and then an approval as a whole.
So my take on this is that, you know, I was on the previous subcommittee. And, you know, if the subcommittee approves of the person, it doesn't have to be, you know, we never said it had to be 100%. That, you know, I think we should, you know, respect the opinion of the subcommittee. Now, if another person would have not been for the guy, Mr. Long, then I would have felt the same way. Hey, even, you know. So my opinion is, you know, I respect everyone's opinion here, Lynn. She has really valid points. And I really don't know, you know, I've never met the guy, I didn't. But my point is that if we have a subcommittee and the subcommittee as a group, you know, approves of it, then myself personally, then I'm gonna vote for Mr. Long.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jerry, on that. I respect the subcommittee, but that's one of the reasons why I like not having the subcommittees, because we got to meet them, everybody got to meet them, and everybody got to ask questions, and then everybody got to talk about it afterwards. So,
It's a city resolution that we went by last time, so, and how you do
I
this.
know when I got appointed to the Parks meeting, no, I gotta come and talk to everybody here.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
You do.
And this, I feel is a good happy medium because we are allowed to the commission as a whole and discuss it.
Well, I respect it.
Okay. And did you have any
Well,
comments?
I respect, I mean, I am concerned if somebody is not prepared for a interview. So it does gives me an alarm bell. But as we already agreed, I believe that is the subcommittee, whatever they determine that's it.
So then I would like to move forward then and bring the subcommittee's approval of Brian Long as our recommendation to the new commissioner for the Parks and Trails Commission. And so, Brandon, do you bring our suggestion? Can you bring our suggestion to?
I think Melissa will take care of that and make sure it gets on the agenda.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
I have a quick question. I mean, this is probably totally irrelevant. But when a position comes vacant, it seems like sometimes we have quite a few people that want to apply. So how long was this position open for?
I know we received the applicants initially in December or before. And then there were some who had not responded back. And so at this point, he's the only one who continued with the interview process.
Is there any way that we can advertise this a little bit better, that, you know, try to get more volunteers to advertise it?
They do, yeah, and this process just happened to take a little bit longer, because there was some big changes in the parks with our staff and then switch over with me. And the non-response from the other applicants. So this normally, I think we would have resolved bringing on the new commissioner a little bit sooner. But
I'd just like to see more candidates. And
yeah, me
just wondering
too.
how we can do that.
Yeah, I would love to be more proactive as a commission in recruiting volunteers and recruiting people who'd like to be interested in the commission. I think that would be fantastic. And so as, you know, as another position comes open, perhaps it would be great for us to discuss a bit of I don't know if campaign's the right word, but, you know, advertising on our behalf to bring more interested persons in. I think that's great.
I met Lauren at the St. Helens Garden Club, so that's how I got to know her, so I thought that should be a good one.
Yeah, that's great.
Was anyone ever, was she prepared?
Yeah. You know that.
Here today? Or no, she's
On that commission.
she's on the commission here today. Okay.
All right, did you need to circle back to anything for the proposed campsite? I'm not sure what you'd like to do to move forward with that.
I'm not sure what the best way forward. Just like
I think voice your opinion at the meeting. You have a chance to do that.
So what time is the meeting tomorrow?
it usually goes 6 to 12. 6 hours.
It starts at 6 in the evening.
I think it's 6. I'm not sure.
Same as these then.
It's usually a 2-day affair.
Will you be attending that meeting?
I'm thinking about it now, yeah.
I will, be. Okay. Great.
I mean, I just don't see that as being a long.
We-
had it, we could get them to, move it.
Yeah, could we designate somebody to speak on our behalf?
Have you seen Marine Drive?
Well, that's why I was kind of asking if there's like an action that you would like us to take or a position that you're requesting that the commission take on this so that you can bring it back as a whole voice rather than just an individual going to the meeting and expressing.
You know, my take, you know, and I'm gonna repeat exactly what I said before. Is that I know it only is behind the rec center,
Yeah,
but, you know, we would like for that. To be held firm.
Yeah.
Because we we would like to develop the area behind that as a reserve.
yeah. So
You know,
would,
that's, you know, that's the main point that I would like to see the planning commission use.
would you like,
A lot of,
yeah,
it involve a lot of policing.
Oh, I know, they're gonna do,
Just bleed out.
no, I'm saying. What, Buck, I know what you're saying, Lynn and I already talked about, it's gonna they're gonna be down there, because there's some cool places down there where they quarried out.
yeah.
Have little shelters down there, you know, it's pretty neat. But. Not make it, you know, make sure that they don't make that official.
Yeah.
You know,
So would you like to make a recommendation that the council states a position to the planning commission that we request that the campsite locations that they're considering be restricted to just that location behind the rec center, and that we offer forth a liaison on our behalf to go and make that statement at the meeting?
well, in addition to that, I think we should say that, you know, we would like to use the area behind that,
Mhm.
you know, along the creek there as, you know, as a potential reserve.
Right.
Yeah,
They need to know why we're saying that, I
Yeah.
think.
So I've got the maps and I've already made some effort on that, so I wouldn't mind being the spokesperson.
I would just like to make sure that we're all in agreement for whatever dialogue is being brought forth to the planning commission.
Cause I'm not against there being an area.
I am not either.
On the other side, I'm not against that,
I understand it's a requirement. I appreciate the language being put forth.
and especially with the police station.
Yeah.
Across the street, I don't think you could ask for a better area to try to have something like
But
that.
I also appreciate wanting to limit it to that closer location, so it's more easily patrolled. And considering what our future goals are with that.
I see it back there on the, you know, it needs to be well away from the creek.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could say, it. I know that it's not going to be able to be policed, Buck, I understand that concept. The reality is, but maybe in our motion, we say that, you know, we would like that back area to be, you know, patrolled to remove people that are back there. I mean, whether it happens or not, I think they should still know, at least that's the way I feel. I think they should, if people go back there in that area, then the police should go back there and say, hey, your area is up here, you can't be here.
And I probably got one other question, and all that would be is hopefully there's no fires allowed.
There is no fires allowed when it comes to this.
Yeah, there's no fire.
It's unique geologically too.
Oh, yeah.
And it
Back there to find firewood.
doesn't have any blackberries and all the ivy that you see growing all over. It's a beautiful area. In fact, Jenny told me when I was getting the maps, she says, you know, when I first went back there, it was like I wasn't even in the city.
Mhm.
That's exactly.
It's just-
So would one of you guys be willing to make a motion and include the verbiage that you would like to bring forth to the planning commission tomorrow's meeting?
Well, I'll make a motion, and might have to rebase a little bit, but I make a motion that the area behind the rec center, that be the designated area, and not to be expanded any down in by the creek. Then, let me finish. And so one is that we restrict it to that area. Two is the plans of the Parks and Trails Commission is to have the wooded area along the creek as a reserve. And third, we also request that the police patrol the area in the future reserve proposed, I don't know, the reserve that we'd like to have, that if there are campers in that area, that they are removed back to the designated area.
Mhm.
I'm not very good at words, but those are the three ideas I'd like to see incorporated.
Additionally, you need a sign saying from dusk to dawn only.
But,
And we need that parking area too, for people that want to visit there.
yeah, and, but it's. I don't see how you cannot be close to the Milton Creek there, because it's pretty much all pretty close to the creek.
Okay,
I don't think it is.
You
Could
want to
there
read
be-
that back to us, Dana, and see what sounds.
so. You are asking to make a motion that we make a comment to the planning commission, right?
Our recommendation,
Our recommendation is that the area behind the rec center be the designated area and that it does not go further than that. That the Parks and Trails are planning to use the back area as a preserve and are looking to move forward on that. And that you request that the back area for the future preserve be patrolled.
regularly patrolled.
Controlled, and that any violators of our.
Regularly
city
patrolled
right-
by the city, by the city of St. Helens,
Mhm.
police, or
And anybody that is camping outside of the designated area be removed.
be but back in their area.
The other question is, didn't it say something about on the other side of the street there on the other side of Castor also?
There is something down the Castor Road.
So are we, we're saying only,
Did you see the map that was in the email?
so
But,
we need to state that we're not against that because that verbiage there makes it sound like we only want the one spot and that's it.
I don't know if it's, within our purview.
Right.
That other side, but, with this particular site, I'm not, in agreement with Jerry's verbiage on this because it's still close proximity to the trail and all that. I can say that would agree to it if it's temporary use for it.
We can also make a recommendation that use of that area be on a temporary basis and revisit it at a later time.
Because they've also never said, how many square feet are they talking about?
12 by 12.
Well, per individual.
Okay, so that's what if there's 7 or 8 spots, it's not really that much land.
Mhm.
Okay, about
1,200 square feet.
Okay, so is that your motion, Jerry?
Yeah, I'm fine with, I'm fine with Scott. Addition.
Just, that's all I can do is motions to city.
Oh, then never mind. Okay, excuse me. So
Or is this a statement that you're preparing for the meeting you're attending?
yeah, I just want all of us to be in approval of the verbiage that we're bringing to the planning commission.
I will,
Great, excuse me. Okay,
Yeah, because
so I support that. I support that. I'd like it to also include a temporary, that we recommend that it be temporary. And then which of you would like to make that statement to the planning commission? You said you're prepared to go?
Yeah, I'd be prepared to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I have a little more information
Yeah,
than that,
you
but
could
that's
do that.
basic.
What more are you looking to, is, what I am asking is only what you plan to state on behalf of the Parks Commission.
Anything else you.
Anything else would have to be on a personal,
Yes. Yeah, I can make that statement.
okay.
Send it to me.
All right. Okay. That satisfies you for now on your agenda item?
Well. It'll work.
Okay.
you're not gonna offend me, Scott. You could add more, take away, I'm fine, the way I feel about it. I think Lynn probably has stronger feelings than I do.
Yeah, my feelings are a little stronger than.
Yeah, I think everyone else, yeah.
So
It's a tough subject.
It is very, which is why it's important for us to be united also as a commission. And so if you feel very strongly that there is a sentiment that you'd like to bring forth to the planning commission that would be taken into consideration for this, it'd be great to have everyone back it if it's appropriate to do so rather than one individual, which is why I really like this option. So then,
that kind of spirit, yes. Remember when back there?
right, we walked
Areas
through
after we
it.
went across the road and it's. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that should be brought up too, because there's people trying to save Camas Fields right now.
mhm. So would you like to include then in your statement, the awareness of the Camas field when they're making their plans for the location? I think that's appropriate as well. Yeah,
Still mad at the city.
I also want to thank you for your willingness to do so and bring that to the planning commission. Thank you. All right, any further discussion on the proposed campsites?
I'm just trying to look out for the livability of the citizens, not only in our community, but beyond.
Absolutely. Okay, quickly on to old business. Sorry, it's a little late, you guys. It's 5:30. Urban trail update.
That'd be me. Yeah, right. Yeah. As you know, we've been working on an urban trail for, I don't know, over 3 years, maybe 4 years. So on the subcommittee is Lynn, Dana, and Howard, and myself. And in the past, we had 2 members that had left us, the commission. So we've been working on this a long time. And so we had a meeting. And there were some real strong feelings that it's probably time to do something. That's kind of what everyone said. Hey, we've been at this a long time. We also realize, or at least I think I realized, that the timing of this has been the huge problem. Because the city wants to redo, I'll give you Park, they want to do the River Walk, and right now you can't go through that area. I was told that it would probably be not this fall, but the following fall before we'd be able to use, the River Walk, where the River Walk is proposed. So we're looking at another, year and a half, which means, we're just kind of just keep putting it back and putting it back. So what I'm going to do here, I'll try to do it relatively quickly, is I want to review the urban trail because this is our 3rd edition. That's how long we've been doing it. Edition number 3. This year time, we actually dated it. May 2023. So, we don't get confused, which, can happen. And then when we get through here, then I have a request that I want to put forward to the commission.
Right.
To do some things. So let's just kind of move along through this. I gave the subcommittee a hard copy and Mr. Sundin a copy. And Les a copy. I think of Les. So the cover is the same. This says, the St. Helens Historic Riverfront Park. And this is the St. Helens Parks and Trails Commission. We changed that from Parks and Rec to Parks and Trails. We have bike trails, we have pedestrian trails, but they're only limited right now to the parks. There's none that, are outside the parks. Okay, page 2 on this. Okay, the urban trail, okay, wait a minute, okay, that's it. The top 2 reasons, basically, we as a subcommittee, we feel like this would be an asset for the citizens of St. Helens, Columbia County, and the region. There are numerous people, like I just run into some people down at the Botanical Gardens last week, they come here and they want to walk around. It's also greater regional exposure for the city of St. Helens and Columbia County, like Kalama, listen to their ads on TV. They say, come here. We've got great walks along the river. And there's also another city that does that, but I forgot what it was. Next time I'm going to write it down. But there is a large number of people that go on the website and they go every weekend and they go walk different trails. My wife and I, we used to do that at least twice a month. Now that we've gotten a little older, we don't do it quite as much. So those are the 2 main reasons, but we feel like there's a lot of other benefits. First of all, this trail goes through 5 parks.
You have to tell us, Jerry. We know this already.
Which is really good.
Just how do we make it progress?
Okay, it increases the livability, it brings, people to the shops. It's an attraction for tourists and residents. It's incredible views of the river, mountains, etc. It goes by the historic courthouse, the Knighton House. The urban trail could be used for walks, 4th of July, Halloween walks, that type of thing. It's an opportunity to showcase the riverfront development down here. Because people walk there, hey, look at St. Helens, look what they got, people that come to town. The trail will provide access to the Columbia Boulevard overlook. So one of the things we talked about was the trail is right below that. We'd like to have a crosswalk that comes across. My feeling is that may not happen in my lifetime, but
I heard there, but subcommittee about that.
yeah, we put out a subcommittee. It's approximately 2.25 miles. In the summertime, people can, go to Sand Island, at least they can now. And also it's AD access from the Raycliffe Park down through the Riverwalk. So when the subcommittee got together and talked, these were the 3 things that we wanted to do this year. One, we wanted to install trail markers, both the painted horizontal ones and the concrete marker. We wanted to promote and market the urban trail, design a QR code and develop a website. And we also wanted to install a kiosk. And we'll talk more about that later on. And as you can see over there, this is just a preliminary thing. Other things need to be done there. A lot of people, my wife is a big promoter of this, so is Steve Koski, they think that the Cliff Trail, I call it the Wyeth Cliff Trail, it's the Cliff Trail, definitely needs, the upper part needs to be improved. But people have been going up and down that for a long time. I know Buck is tired of this. The next page. You can see the signs that we have. So one, we talked about having, a template, and we paint on the roads and the sidewalks and the boardwalk, the ones on the left. And then we would have a concrete one, a stamp that we would do there. Okay, next page. Budget and implementation. So. Okay, the concrete, they would be donated by Doug Morton and myself. We're talking about the ready mix. Howard has a large water container that we could move along, and we could mix it in a wheelbarrow, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, the stamp, the concrete stamp would be provided by the Parks Department. Buck said that it'd probably be somewhere between $150 and $250. Construction would be done by Howard Blumenthal, Scott Jacobson, and myself. And I've made quite a few little pads to put photo poles on and other things on, so I feel confident that we can do that.
I'm sorry to say that by the time this seems to be getting done, might be too old.
It could be, I don't know, it's only been 3 years. The timing is the issue, then I'll just keep saying that. Okay, as far as the painted markers, Dana said that she would make stencils. And that she owns is it a tattoo parlor?
It is.
That was the proper name. So Dana owns a tattoo parlor. And I think she probably has the skill to make that happen.
What a time frame for me on when you want, do you have a deadline? I like a
Well,
deadline.
we'll get to that later on. Yeah, it's probably gonna be a while. The stencil mirror was provided by the Parks Department. It's already in their park inventory. So says Mr. Tupper. Painting will be donated by Doug Morton and myself, and the painting will be done by the same crew as before. I stuck this in here. We've talked about this, that, we should probably have a sign along the cliff that says it's unfenced or something like that, even though the trail is going to be on the opposite side of the road. I want everyone clear of that. We're not walking by the cliff. We're going to be on the other side of the road. Okay. Next. Okay. Promotion and marketing. So the quick response codes is going to be developed by Dana. Number 2, Dana will also design and develop a website in conjunction with the city staff and probably other people that she knows. And Dana will donate her expertise. The kiosk. and when I get through, that's one thing I want to talk about where it goes and everything. But the design and construction of the kiosk will be headed by Lynn Pettit, coordinated with Buck Tupper, who's the City of St. Helens Facility and Maintenance supervisor, plus other things. Materials for the construction will be donated by the city. Buck says that they have them in their inventory, and he also has a very good carpenter. So, you know, the kiosk will look good. As long as it's designed good, right, Lynn? Construction and installation of the kiosk will be handled by the Parks Department. Okay, for the last page, the map. There are some little typographical errors on this, so my younger daughter basically did the first few pages, and my older daughter did this page. And we were doing it one night after they worked all day, and it was like 10:30 at night. There's a few things I missed on it. But if you look at this map, the trail that we want, when the construction is completed, it would start. I know it says future Columbia View Park. I should have reworded that. I didn't think about it at the time, but there is a Columbia View Park there now. But the park will be extended. Okay, it's going to be over twice as large. So the park, it would start. What we proposed is having the kiosk eventually in the area where Seaman is. Buck's got an area there that's where there's some rhododendrons that might work out. We'd walk along where the river walk is, and the river walk is going to be fantastic once it gets done. I mean, it's going to have a beach, it's going to have overlooks, it's pretty cool. Then it's going to travel up and it's going to go up through Nob Hill Park. It's going to go through the 5th Street Boardwalk. Since it's going down 4th Parkway Street, Godfrey Park. Then it's going to come out along Wyatt Street, and then Wyatt Street turns into River Street at 1st Street. And there it's going to cross the road, so it's away from the cliff, down the cliff trail, around through Great Cliffs Park and back. So that's the basic trail. So what the subcommittee wanted, and if I'm not stating this right, guys, speak up and say this. What we would like to do, when we met about, I'll kind of go back a little bit. We met about a month or so ago, maybe 6 weeks ago with Buck Tupper, the subcommittee. And we went through all this stuff, and we really do appreciate Buck Tupper's input and help. Buck, I really do. I mean, we really appreciate your support for this. So we realize that right now we're not going to be able to go through where the yellow line is because it's blocked off. So what we would like to do is start the urban trail right at the stairs of the old courthouse, which is easy for people to find, and then follow along the blue lines. It goes basically down 1st Street, then it goes to the Tualatin Street stairway up, down 3rd Street there, right, Howard? Down 3rd Street and then connects back up to the trail there.
I haven't been over there. Is there still clear access to that stairwell during the?
Alton Street stairway might be blocked right now. I'm not sure.
Well, it's a very dangerous area.
Not it's gonna be soon.
Okay, that was my question. I don't think we're gonna have access while they're having that.
In the last newsletter, they said that was another alternative way for me to get to the living.
Don't know. All I know is I was told that stairway would probably be closing soon if it's not already closed, and that was.
I came down that way today.
We did.
And the slope of it's terrible, and then coming across by Grace's Antique, that building is ready to fall. I don't see how we have a trail open with a building that's ready to collapse on the trail.
So with that said, you know, it says proposed detour. There's numerous ways to get around that. This way, I mean,
We just gotta get the city to do it. Then
there's just, yeah,
what this whole thing resolves around. We can talk about this till we're blue in the face.
Right.
This is the city gonna back us on this.
let me finish this real quick. I'll try to wrap it up here as quickly as I can. So what I would like to do, and Lynn said that she would go with me. And what I need to, is I'd like to go talk to the county commissioners and see if they would let us put a kiosk in Plaza Park or the Rose Garden there. Because that's, you know, it would be the same kiosk, but then eventually would be moved back. And then we'll see where that goes. Just ask them how they think about it. And then once we get this, then I'd like the subcommittee then to meet with Buck and Mohammed. And then we can kind of move forward what we're going to do with it next. You know, how are we gonna? Because, you know, so
Well, we got the approvals. I think the plans are great. I think we've agreed on the signs. I think we've got a plan and approval for getting the signage in. So I would love to see some deadlines and action plans, because we all have what looks like homework, right? In here, for each of us has our tasks. And so implementing these tasks is what needs to be done. Because it sounds like with our conversations, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, but getting the signage as proposed and getting the website and QR codes as proposed is all good to go, right? So,
Kiosk approval site has not been approved,
okay,
not a final thing.
okay,
I don't know, is this something that the council needs to approve before we go ahead and go for it? Is that something that needs to go through you guys?
I would think you would want to have it as finalized as you could with
Okay.
deadlines and
yeah,
laid out before you go and.
see, that's the way I feel. So I know what Dana's saying, you know, I would like, you know. Will the county let us put a kiosk, you know, in the Rose Garden or in the park there? I mean, we can survive, it's not there, but it would sure be nice to have. You know, a kiosk there, so when people show up, they can look at the QR code, they can also look at the map and the other things that you guys decide to put on it. If they say yes, then we meet with Buck and Mohammed and say, hey. What do we need to do here? Okay, we can't go up the stairway, you know, to Walton Street, you know, what are we going to do? And then from that meeting, we've got a plan. And then we have a plan already, but I mean, it has to be approved by, you know, I think Buck and Mohammed have to really, you know, buy into this 100%.
We also have to have the manpower, you gotta understand it.
right,
Right now is the busiest time of year I'm
Right.
gonna have every year. So from
Right.
now till October is slammed.
Right.
Still don't even have a chance to get anything going on this till October next year.
Probably, yeah.
Being honest, a couple months you won't have anything, because we've got rec model, remodel going.
so would it be possible, so you guys are gonna meet with the county,
Okay,
right?
now, that's the thing I wanted to bring up. I will contact them
Yeah.
and. Yes,
I think that's great, and then we can meet again as the subcommittee and get some deadlines and some timeframes for the tasks, and then that way we can go for hopefully more of an approval with actual action plans for city council. I think that would be great. Does that sound good?
okay, yeah, I mean, somewhere in there, we gotta meet with Buck and Mohammed, I mean, that has to be. You know, that has to be in there, because, you know, they have to say, before, you know, they have to tell the city council that, hey, yeah. We can make this work, it'll work, you know, they've gotta be for it, if they're not for what's happening here. It's probably not, it's not gonna happen,
Right.
and.
If we weren't for it, you wouldn't be where you're at right now.
Right.
It's getting ridiculous on how long it's taking to get this done.
Sure, well,
If we come up with timelines and deadlines, there's no. What's gonna force them to be done? It's not. It's gonna drag on for years.
You gotta remember, we started really going gung ho in January,
mhm.
back.
Well,
So things are starting
we've been
to,
going gung ho for 2 to 3 years.
Well,
it's been really
So
slow.
I would love for you guys to meet with the county. I think that's an incredible idea. I would love for the subcommittee to meet again, and then we can have our conversation, and then we can bring it forth again to
Yeah.
again,
so we'll do that.
I think that's
I'll
great.
I'll make an appointment. I know they'll listen to me, they may not approve it, but we'll get together with the county commissioners, and then afterwards, the four of us can get together. I know Scott kind of likes to sit in on those.
We'll be mindful of notification of our meeting, since there will be this many members at that meeting.
And then, once we do that, we can kind of. It's pretty, and then we will meet, then we'll make them. Then we'll have a meeting with Buck and Mohammed, and then we'll move forward from there.
That sounds great.
Thanks for your tolerance. Again.
I appreciate your passion on this project. I'm excited to watch it unfold. Okay,
Starting to wane.
funny, how do you do my part?
Okay, I went out there with Shannon and, Patrick Berkeley, and, we got Patrick flagged up native plants there. There's 5 different types of plants. I could list them if you'd like. But, so you were wondering how best to conserve that. So they can, continue there. Maybe set off some portion of it. I mean, it's nothing pressing right now because we've stopped the mowing for a little while and then it's back on. Did you get to the other side now?
We moved the north side this morning.
North side this
The
morning?
dog park, that has remained natural.
Okay.
I was gonna see what you wanted from here. I can give you a few days, but it's
Just give it a few days. And,
knee high. I mean, it's deep
I I was out there the other day to check it out. Yeah.
over the weekend. It really took it.
Yeah,
Until this next couple of days when it's sunny.
it's supposed to be very, very, very warm this upcoming weekend, and
It's
so,
hard on our mowers when it's that deep.
yeah.
But, I mean, it's something that we need to discuss going forward, about the native plants there, what to do with that. Again, I mean, if, once you mow it, then, it's on the back burner until next spring,
Right.
so we can.
We can transplant or create a corner of it that's a nature reserve instead of a park, cause it's to me designed as more of a playground for kids to play. And if
Well, there's only,
all they use.
there's only one teeter totter, in here, so it's.
What plants are you talking about?
They play, there's kids.
Look it up. I can send it to you. Oh, that sound.
Oh, okay.
Is it,
Why
is
don't you send it to the whole commission?
it possible to have the plants relocated? Is that, what are you looking to have done since you've paused the maintenance of the area? What is
I'm
your
just
goal?
hoping that they get a chance to,
Either room and
either bloom and go through their process, their cycle, so they can continue on.
Yeah,
So that's why we asked all. You discussed it while we were there, going forward. Patrick was talking about setting aside a portion too. And, so I mean, it was an emergency to stop it right now, but we're not pressed from time to,
It'd be nice in the off season to find a compromise somewhere and get it established before we get to this point again.
yeah, I think that would be great if that's a conversation that we can have, knowing that they're there now, allowing them,
yeah.
opportunity is important. But also maintaining the parks to an appropriate standard, considering the weather and usage is important too.
And while we were out there, we got a visit from one of the one of the neighbors to the park right there. And she had a couple of few points to make. One was that, well, there's always been the issue of the balded area in the dog park. I mean, it can be a slippery safety issue. There's no grass on there, and once it rains, it's pretty slick. It's been proposed to me about maybe bark chips. That just seems like you're putting yourself on skis to slide down. So, I'm not sure what to do with that.
Is it possible to just get rid of the dog park since it's in a bad area anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really happy with any of the dog parks that we have, because they're all, one in it is in a prime spot it's great locale, it's good real estate in Gray Cliffs. The other one in McCormick is by, the creek there, which has salmon spawning and still is spawning there. And this one is sloped. So you propose something on the north side Campbell Park.
Yeah, I would love to, as a group, come with some ideas of other locations within city.
Right.
Yeah.
That would make great dog parks, because I agree that a couple of the locations that we have are not best utilized, they're not best located, and there's nothing on the north side. And so, that was actually something I was gonna talk about real quick, when we talked about Campbell Park, but that is,
If we could just, locate one in this, on either side of 30, that'd be great. That would be, a little more user friendly.
yeah, I agree.
But a couple of points that were also brought up while we're there was the trash there during the summer when the dogs, they pick up the excrement, put it in the trash, and it's 100 degrees out.
Yeah,
You can really smell. So that's an issue. So it's possible to, during that period, you get a little more robust in our picking up the bins there, just there.
You know, with the manpower I have right now,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest, we spend 2.5, 3 hours every single day picking up just trash.
yeah,
It's a ton of trash, and with those bags only get about that deep, and when they're that deep, you wouldn't believe how heavy they are.
Yeah.
They're very difficult to pick up, so we try not to let them get any deeper than that, but with all the mowing and all the maintenance, we just don't have the people to do it. I mean, it's just I guess you could try to design a better garbage can with a lid, but people throw the lids in the creeks and everything else, so. To be honest, no, not right now.
Well, it is an issue, so I'm gonna revisit it because
yeah.
it's an issue.
We could brainstorm.
Act at home. To put it in their own hands, but they're not.
They bring their home garbage and throw it in the cans.
I understand that.
And another issue that's been brought up, but if we move these things, it might not be an issue. There's the issue of noise from dog owners yelling at their dogs to do whatever.
Yeah,
Fighting dogs, they come in together and everybody's yelling to make them stop, because I hear that in my neighborhood
yeah.
even now.
I would really love to see any of us who have other proposed locations for dog parks, bring them forth to the commission so we can discuss and, yeah,
I think we need to have a discussion just on dog parks themselves.
Yes.
In the last city council meeting or the one before yesterday, or last week, whatever, I was to one. And a lady was complaining because she trains her dog in a 6-foot leash she needs to have a longer leash for training. And so that's why I was starting to think about Civic Pride could become a dog park.
yeah.
Maybe special for dog training if it's a quiet thing.
Yeah, and I've seen quite a few people utilize Campbell Park as an open off-leash dog park, which it is not designated as such. And so that's one of the reasons why I think somewhere over there would be fantastic for an off-leash dog park.
You should talk to Lauren too, not Civic Pride, because that's what she's trying to come up with a plan now.
Yeah.
All right, so we're cutting it really, really close on time.
Just one
Got lots.
thing, is there anything I missed? No, Melissa, she is the neighbor that I spoke.
Oh. I gotta call her out. Okay, thank you so much. Quick, Nob Hill.
I think
Can
that's
you
what
guys
we're-
hear me?
Yes, she's gonna do my report. I hope that's okay. You guys never really anything from their ones.
Okay, I'm gonna launch in. Hello, my name is Caroline Skinner and I'm Howard's partner. And Howard and I are jointly stewards at Nob Hill, and we may not 100% agree on everything, but in general, we work very well and closely together. So I'm just gonna kind of touch on some of the things that have gone on in the past year or so and a few thoughts about looking forward. I'm kind of starting with last fall. In September, October, we had Halloween Town's Whispers in the Woods with creative masks on the trees. And honestly, it warms my heart to see lots of people and families enjoying the beautiful gravel loop trail at Nob Hill. And then on the first Saturday in November, we held our standard half-yearly volunteer work party. That was well attended. we pick these times when at least we're not overheating, but it's often 50 degrees and at least partly raining. So it's a little hard to get people to turn out if it seems really rainy, but we did it. And then we also had a work party the following week. I'm just going to call it a private work party. Anyone was welcome, but we invited a group of people to specifically help us with planting and staking and caging some larger plants that were from a grant, our Portland Garden Club grant. Throughout the winter, Howard and I honestly did a tremendous amount of stewardship. You probably heard he had trouble with his truck engine and we couldn't really go anywhere. So we were there just about every weekend. We found a fairly advanced small stand of a weed that's a garden plant called ligustrum, which is also called privet. And this was Japanese privet, and it was covered in bird-sized berries. So we weed wrenched it out, and also we removed other weeds, including ivy, English ivy, English holly, and blackberry. And we started working with gravel on the trails. The city very kindly has provided gravel, and we've been putting out gravel throughout the winter months. And we've started a new idea of making a few exit paths for water. Some of the trails, there was a super heavy downpour. Some of the trails got some erosion, and we've started giving the water somewhere to go by a little bit of sculpting the gravel. So that seems to be working well. So this winter we finished up our Portland Garden Club grant. We requested and got $600, and half to be spent on cages and stakes and half on plants. So we had kind of a grand vision. We're putting in larger, either small trees or large shrubs, mainly elderberry, chokecherry, and bitter cherry. Then we do some work with Fifth Street right-of-way, which technically is adjacent to, but not part of Nob Hill. So on March 4, turns out that was too early, we had a work party on Fifth Street right-of-way that we removed big ivy. It really was just too cold. We want to do it again next year, but not in early March. On March 25th, we had a retired PGE lineman come with permission from the city to chainsaw down some of the larger non-native cherry trees that don't really belong there. They're pretty numerous. It'll be a while. I don't know if we'll ever get to the end of them. But so our strategy is, it may seem strange, but we're taking out non-native cherries and putting in the native appropriate varieties that have the right benefits for wildlife. Wildlife has evolved to those native varieties, and they provide flowers for pollinators and birds for berries and other small animals. We had our half-yearly works party for spring. I think it was around early April, maybe April 1st. Again, we had an okay turnout. We also partner with Native Plant Society of Oregon to lead 1 or 2 plant ID walks at the park. So we already held one on April 15th, and we have a second one coming up May 21st. And I will just say this late, rainy, wet springs are ideal for native lilies. We've had just stunning displays of fawn lilies, checker lilies, trillium, and some other native wildflowers too. Camas is coming in now, and there's been a profusion of this little one called Prairie Star that's just a very beautiful small flower. We're very grateful to the St. Helens Lions Club. We've earned 3 benches, Trex benches. We're just completing our 4th bench, which will be sited below the big fir tree at the park, which, by the way, is on the Halloween Town loop walk, and it's about the halfway point. So I wouldn't doubt it'll see some use. I think it's a really nice spot to just look at some of the oak trees and bluffs and kind of, like someone else said, forget you're in the city and just enjoy the natural setting. I'd like to see us get a 5th bench and put it at the top of 4th, well, at the end of 4th Street, where 4th Street opens up into the park. It would be the highest in elevation and look out almost into the trees, almost into the treetops. So it would be a very different view than some of the others. Also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with a program or an app called iNaturalist. And what you do is you see a plant and you take a picture and it notes the location and it gives you a suggested ID. And we got help from our friends John Hakim and well, mainly John Hakim, to set up a project that has the boundaries of Nob Hill delineated. So when plant observations are made, they're slotted into Nob Hill. So what we're doing is kind of making an inventory of the sightings. Other people have recorded birds and amphibians, and I've mainly been focusing on the native plants, although there are some reports of non-natives too. And I'll just mention in passing that we are having a sad, long-lasting experience with an invasive weed called shining geranium. It's taken over many places. It's by no means only at Nob Hill, but the soil at Nob Hill is so dark and rich and moist. It's unfortunately optimal for shining geranium, and it's seemingly displacing some of our small native ground covers, but we just don't have enough hours in each day for us to personally work on that. So I'm just letting the group know that it's there. So Howard said that by now substantially Howard has mostly, we've graveled almost 300 feet of trail throughout the park, and we're just feeling really good about it being a good, even, level, solid walking surface that's somewhat resistant to high rain. And I guess, let's see, Howard has done a lot of weed eating. We want to weed eat above the fir tree really soon. It's where we've done some planting and the weeds are really dense there. As far as at the end of South 3rd Street, there's kind of a bowl-shaped area. And when we first kind of encountered it, it was all blackberry and reed canary witcher weeds. So we've been removing those, plus we're having a profusion of non-native bulbs from yard debris dumping, including grape hyacinth, Spanish bluebell, and Italian arum. And those are really hard to get rid of. So I'm not feeling too good about that, but we've consistently been putting in pollinator favorites, including helenium, fireweed, tarweed, pearly everlasting, Douglas aster, Sedalcia, and western hedge nettle. And those just happen to be typically in the height of 2 to 4 feet and just colorful. And so gosh, if we got hot pink, lavender, golden yellow, and white all going at once, it could be quite lovely. And we're working on it is all I can really say. We have put a few madrones in places where we've never tried them before, and they're 6 inches high, so it's too soon to know if they'll survive or not. They're very hard to get established, ironically. So looking ahead, we would like, I personally, I know, I understand fully how tight park staff is. I'm just putting it out there that, you know, Howard and I are not eternal, and we're very devoted, but I'd like to see the Parks Department eventually do 1 weed whacking per year, start at the kiosk, walk to the end of South 3rd on one side, turn around, walk back. So each side of the main stem of the trail gets weed whacked once a year by the city. I'd say in June. Prior to that, we don't really want to see weed whacking of wildflowers, but that's my personal wish list. And we also would love to have corrections crew help us out above the big fir tree, basically where 4th Street dead ends and it kind of goes into alongside of a guy's yard. There's an enormous blackberry patch, and we don't really have enough bandwidth to completely remove the blackberries and plant and maintain. But if they could be cut back once or twice a year by corrections crew, that could be really excellent. And I think I mentioned, well, we did have the PGE linemen cut down some cherries, but we want to be very careful not to cut down trees in bird nesting season. So that time is now, bird nesting. So we wouldn't cut down any large trees or shrubs, but next winter could be an optimal time. It's, you know, not safe for chainsawing for weather reasons in the summer and fall. But by December, January, we might come back and again ask for permission to cut down a few more. since if that person is still available, since he's a professional and safety first all the way. We do have a date for our next work party on Fifth Street Row, which is Saturday, September 9th, before Halloween Town. And our goal is to do some planting of these wetland plants that are tough and hardy called sedges and rushes, and just mainly do planting. We can do blackberry and ivy too, but we'll offer it as a planting opportunity because the public likes that. And I'm thinking, wow, it won't be 50 degrees and raining probably in early September for once. And then November 4th of this coming November is our half yearly work party for the fall. So that's what I have. And Howard and I just appreciate the opportunity to let you know, and just appreciate the support in general. Oh, and we also really appreciate outhouses for our work parties. It's a real awkward moment if someone needs one and there isn't one and they have to leave or whatnot. So thank you for that.
Thank you for doing that, Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
How do you get the outhouses brought to us?
Just ask for a house and.
They appear.
Tina lets us use theirs.
Mhm.
She volunteered to let us use them. I mean,
Okay.
for the.
I want to say thank you for cleanup on the Japanese gardens.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think. It allows.
it's the goal, right?
Yeah,
A
well,
lot more mess up there too.
All right.
Changed it a lot.
I got one other thing, real quick update on.
Yes.
Health. Lynn, we've ordered your new green bench.
Yes, Kathy told me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just I'm
And
waiting
you got
for
the
it to
other
be
one.
delivered and then.
Yeah.
Stop to get together with possible.
All right, so I will be super quick on number 10 and number 11. Number 10, as far as the city council presentation, I had requested the last meeting that you guys offer me at least a little bit of information for an update for this last calendar year for your parks. I didn't receive anything prior to today. So if you guys could please, within the next couple of days, just shoot me a quick email, even if it's just like bullet points of stuff that goes down in your parks. I did notes from your presentation today, Howard, so you're off the hook. But if you could please give me some information on your parks, and that way I can just update and give it to city council. My goal for the city council update is just a quick down and dirty of big stuff that's going on in the parks or big issues.
Okay.
That is at their next, in June, city council meeting. So I just need enough time.
Same time that the public works invitation is.
She's asking.
I know.
I was gonna say we need a kiosk there.
Okay.
That's why I want to get you.
I'll tell her right now.
Okay,
For a moment, it's done.
okay, great.
Generally, they kind of space them out, so.
Okay,
I don't know, there could be more than one, but generally.
yeah,
Public works one might be close, and everything combined.
okay. Yeah, just because I don't want to, you know, earbox them with a bunch of extra amazing things that we do all the time, which is wonderful, but just kind of give them a quick, you know, big projects that we're working on or big requests, kind of,
Trail.
urban trail, I'll stick it in there. I promise it'll be there, I promise. Okay, but please, 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 I can't do that without your help. Just send me a little something, that'd be great. Regarding the Campbell Park field trip, I had an excellent turnout. It was just me and Mr. Jacobson. So we wandered. We wandered around, just kind of looked at the current state of the park. There's some great things coming up with tree trimming and some maintenance. Wonderful, Mr. Pepper over here, chatted with me a couple of weeks prior, and I basically just had the same meeting with Mr. Jacobson as I had with Buck. The big things to kind of talk about are there's that drainage field over there that's not there's nothing actively happening, changing, going on. There was a plan once, but it doesn't sound like no in the front.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, next to the basketball court. We talked about the elephant slide, which got approval last time to remove that. Do you have any kind of ET or like a date on when that may or may not happen? No pressure. No.
Not really right now.
Yeah, perfect.
I'll work on it.
So that's happening, yeah, no worries. And then the drainage ditch in the back, I talked with We've talked before about the stagnation that occurs, especially in the summertime, and the high volume of mosquitoes and whatnot, and we discussed possibly doing a little bit of digging back there to improve the drainage and prevent the stagnation. And then that's really about it. We talked a little bit about I think Campbell Park would be an excellent location in the future for a dog park. There's a couple of sections of the park that aren't being best utilized. Including some of that wooded area in the back that I think would be an excellent dog park location.
Flat.
It's flat, there's trees. I just think it would be really fantastic
What is that again?
at Campbell Park. So I'm talking about the area that's over where the current play structure is. And then in the very, very back, there's that kind of wet drainage area, but a lot of people use the park for the ball games and whatnot. And every time I go there, there's people using the playground, the swings and play sets. But I think it would be fantastic for a dog park, considering that people also let their dogs off leash at Campbell. There aren't any dog park opportunities there. So I plan to put on the next month's agenda a discussion specifically on dog parks. And so if you guys want to come prepared with any information on that, I would love to have a great discussion next time. And that is all.
You also said something about having.
Oh, yes, and so we looked, we did look, also there's a water spout over by some of the pavilions and fencing. I think it would be an excellent location for a future consideration for community gardens over in that area. There are a lot of tree cover. I'm interested to see how much light comes through as you guys continue your trimming and whatnot. But again, that side of town, this particular park location would be really excellent for some community gardens. So we discussed that. Okay, that is all for me. As far as action items go, just prepare some information for the dog parks. Please send me a verb about your parks. Lynn, I will email you the bullet points for the planning commission's recommendations. I'll do that this evening, so expect that in your email by the end of the night. Staff report.
Oh, I want to say something real quick.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm not that, okay, what's this one? Where are we at here?
We just finished.
Action items. Okay, I told the person I would do this. So the person, and I've already talked about this, but. So at McCormick Park where the zip line is, I know that this spring it was really wet, but underneath the zip line, I was told at times it was incredibly muddy. And people could not hardly use it. So this person recommended that a ditch be dug, fill it with rocks so it would drain off the water.
Been discussed, it's a very poor design, it's kind of not helped us out much.
Where is it located?
Behind the new playground in McCormick Park, it's the
Oh.
playground, parking lot sits here, the playground's here, and it's behind there.
Oh.
You probably wouldn't see it unless you got out and walked around a little bit, but the drainage over there is terrible from Portland Road all the way to that park, and it's just. Yeah, it's not good. Anyway, you ready for me?
I am ready for the staff report. I'm so sorry.
Not much there, so currently we're mowing and then we mow. Couple times we might grab a weed eater, but most of the time we mow and it's getting crazy real quick. We're trying to keep up. One of my pet peeves is all of the weeds in the grass and the flowers. I'm trying. We got to get time to get our fertilizer equipment out there, so be patient with us. I apologize for it, but we're gonna try real hard to get things moving in the right direction. We did get all the curb stops installed at the park in the lower area, so we got all those rocks are gone that we had to mow around and all that, and there's curb stops. They're nice, they're lined up. I think it's a lot cleaner look and allow us to mow cleaner lines and take the look better. I hope to do that at the rest of Campbell Park. That's a budget issue right now, but if I can do a quarter of it at a time or something, I think it looks nice, a lot cleaner and look like a parking lot's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Trees, Campbell Park power is currently off to the lights. I had the PUD disconnect the power because just pulling it down and locking it, I wanted to be as safe as possible because our guys are gonna be up in a scissor lift around the lines that go to the lights to the fields. We'll be cutting out a dead tree in right field. Hopefully trimming around some of the other lights, then getting the lights powered back on because the league for softball there starts Saturday, so I promised Jeff Kroll I would have power on Friday. He has to prepare. So we'll get what we can done this round and then we can always do it again. And PUD is very kind to us and they come over to do that, so it doesn't take them long. Hopefully we'll get a lot done there. Elephant slide, and yeah, and I can't promise you much on that for a little while.
No worries.
One reminder is when you guys do work at the parks, please let the Parks Department know. Make sure Melissa knows, so you fill out your proper forms, so we can keep track of volunteer hours. It seems petty, but it is important when we go to grants and other things like that, and let's make that our policy and continue to do it. Time in, time again. That way we also know if we gotta pick up debris, trash, like you see over there, we know you're not gonna haul it out. And sit in our park for a couple days and then we got a bad rap.
I talked about timesheets with Lynn the other day. I mean, it'd be nice if we had timesheets that we had to turn in on a monthly basis. That keeps us a little honest. Keep up.
You guys have
Do
time
it every 6 months.
tracking sheets available for volunteer time?
Whatever you wanna do, I have something I can give, Lynn has ones.
Great. Would it
Yeah,
be
I sent
okay?
it to you today.
Would it be okay, for all of us to receive the time tracking sheets and then that way we can return them here at our monthly meetings? Can we do that? That would be great. So then, would you,
Something a little more.
email us? And that way you guys can track all of your volunteer times and then I would love to have them.
Turn them in every meeting that we have, and that way,
Formalized.
right?
Yeah.
It's standard, everybody does the same thing, you bring them here, you slap them in a pile and who's got
Done.
it? I like it.
Perfect.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, other than that, we're mowing, if you guys didn't hear that. Sure, most-
We did a month.
Do they after that?
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Counselor's report?
I don't have a lot either, just again, want to thank you guys for all the work that you do and thanks to Buck and his crew. Special thanks for everybody that was able to be at the party at McCormick Park in the Japanese Gardens. It just shows what a few bodies can do. So in 3-4 hours, we did a lot of work, so made a big difference, looks a lot better. Howard mentioned the leash law, but yeah, it was brought up. It was passed up for approval from this commission to the city council. And somebody happened to see it on the agenda and voiced her concern when she was there that there for people that do training and need off leash areas, that would be nice to have access to that. Also, I know Scott has seen it, but there was a proposal that there is a boards and commissions code of conduct that they would like all commission and board members to sign. So I know Scott shared his feedback with me on that, and if anybody else would like to share any feedback, please do so.
How do we see what it is?
So it was presented. I can get it to you.
Yeah, we need to see a copy of
Can
it.
we see that?
It was in the packet for the last city council meeting, but I can find that. My concern and the concern of Councilor Berkeley as well is that because it applies to the boards and commissions that everybody has to look at it, not do that. I don't think that was the general consensus, so I'm not sure if that's gonna happen or not. But I would encourage you to look at it, and if you do have concerns, reach out. Or let the rest of the council know as well.
When is that due to be approved?
It was presented at our last meeting, and I think the city attorneys are looking over it now.
Within the 20.
Nothing's happened yet.
Yeah, so it's. He is surprised that. Why is that?
You're welcome.
So it was myself was there's a new, I have questions about the conduct, any information. It could impact being able to get information. Plus, there's a verbiage that says they can dismiss commissioners or board members at their discretion, which I'm not really happy with that verbiage because they already have cause. It could be something that, you know, if we have a difference of opinion, well, if they have a council that is different from what we have now, they can say, well, we don't want to hear that, so off you go. It's just, I think there has to be a
speech.
speech.
And I think that's all I've got.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for that. I'll definitely take that. And then what would you recommend would be the best mode of communication for any concerns that you can have for
I
that?
know Scott reached out to me individually, but somebody from the library reached out. I think they sent it to the city recorder and she was able to forward it on to all of the council members. And then somebody from the planning commission did the same thing. So if you'd like, you can send it to the city recorder and request it shared with all the council members.
Thank you so much for that.
But you can send that out to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll find it, make sure it's safe.
Thank you so much. Okay, great. All right. So any discussion items?
30 seconds for Lynn. I tried sending you an email a couple of times. I know your my computer sometimes doesn't send emails, so I type them out. Did you ever get one for me that I was saying that if there was ever a possibility of a grant, we should try to get it down by our kiosk that was able to handle a heavy Bushman or Bobcat, so we don't have to drive through the wetlands. So I decided to point that out to you, that we'd be curious if there was ever an
Never.
option. I don't believe it's sent, and that's why I'm mentioning it to you.
Okay.
And I know when I read it,
Yeah, everybody should send their wants or needs, you know, for their parks, because otherwise we're going by memory.
Okay.
You know, when we're looking for grants, so,
I mentioned that to you.
And keep a wish list.
yeah, exactly.
That's it.
All right. Any other discussion items?
You, when we were at the Camel Park, you asked me if I wanted to join you at Great Cliffs in being assigned that park.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Then also I wanted to kind of read about Howard from last meeting, when he brought up about the stage setting with the Camel View Park. We had a lot of discussion and all that. I said that, you know, it's also, communication is also when you do it and how propose it. It's a very complex thing, so, you know, it's a difficult one. And to that end, I mean, Doug Morton, who's been involved with that all the way through until last December, he came to us and testified, you know, and he's very knowledgeable about it, so he didn't realize it until the very end anyway. And also, the discussion I was also talking about was with the council or our commission and the staff. Because when in my meeting with John and Jenny, they showed me other iterations of what they went through. And I think as our commission, we should be involved in those types of things. So that's another thing that I was trying to say at that time. So that's just, I wanted to clarify.
What's that Great Cliffs thing?
Okay, Ms. Melissa?
I had asked him to join me as the.
That what I said? Sorry.
Team up for Great Cliffs, so I can share that part with him.
You can clarify.
For Great Cliffs,
Yeah,
I will have to double check that.
I think I can send it out to everybody.
I did not receive it.
I don't know.
I know when I least expected it, doesn't send it.
Come to John.
Melissa, you can just say, you know, I was looking for more deeper involvement with the process. Of anything that's going on with the parks.
So your discussion item is that we want more involvement in park.
In the process.
Basically, if they're gonna do something involved in the parks, they wanna know.
But we're obligated.
Right. We can understand, especially with the big waterfront, there's so many moving parts and so much going on that has to take place. And maybe this would be something that we could ask for you at our meeting, if there are any updates as they come along or any big conversations with changes to bring them.
Yeah, I normally, those I'll bring them to you.
Okay.
I'm not involved in this whole big process down just with you.
So who would be the best person to keep us updated, specifically on this big project?
One good thing to do is go on the city's website, sign up to get a newsletter. I get them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do or not, but they're informational. The other one would be to contact the engineering department.
Okay.
Which would be Sharon DeRoe could direct you to somebody, whether it's to Alex or who. Yeah, or some planning, I would say, but mostly engineering now because the process is
Right.
happening.
Right.
Sharon's really good with timetables. If you're curious on when areas will be closed, when the thing be tore apart, things like that.
Is all of that stuff included in those?
Sharon DeRoe.
Is any of that information included in the newsletters?
Some of it is, yeah.
I have a question. How long was this known that the planning commission wanted to do? What they want to do for the homeless? Was this 2 weeks, 1 week?
Well, they came to their findings or how they drew it up. I'm saying maybe 3 weeks ago. That's when it's around there.
Yeah.
So
All right. Okay, thank you. Any other discussion items before we can move on? No? All right, I appreciate you all and thank you for staying late. As far as action items, again, please bring any ideas that you may have for the dog parks to the next meeting. I look forward to hearing about your meeting with the county regarding the urban trail. And please do let me know when you plan on meeting next for the urban trail subcommittee. That way we can give ample notice because with this volume of people, it poses a quorum. And so we'll just have to notify. So that goes out ahead of time. And please, if you haven't already, just send me a little tiny bit about your park that I can give to see. So. And that
Don't
is,
forget your volunteer forms.
oh, and volunteer forms. Starting next month. Okay, adjourn. Okay. Thank you. Okay, did you write anything down? That works.
Scott looked at this, we'd like a kiosk at.
Okay.
And I did.
Usually find some time or somebody.
So we got to try that weekend. Here's plenty of those on Ford Street.
That's it.
I'd like to have an all.
I don't get, say,